McFarland House. Our speaker is Steve Christian, who is the Executive Director of the Berkeley County Development Authority. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
Well, for me. Anyway, if you're ready, without a lot more, come tell us. And hopefully you can give us a couple of minutes at the end for some questions, because I'm sure there will be some.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you very much.
Happy to. I don't do podiums all that well, so I'll probably wander around a little bit. I love being at the McFarland House. We've done some events here, and the city downtown is really blessed, I think, to have a place like this. It's really wonderful. I am on their Facebook page, and I see the images that they post of the wedding receptions and the parties and the things that they have here, and it's really a wonderful asset to have in downtown, and we should all be really pleased that it's here. And I'm pleased to be here and have an opportunity to eat their delicious food one more time. I'm going to talk a little bit today about a very small project that some of you might not have heard of. It's a little company called Macy's, which is building a facility here in Berkeley County in Martinsburg. And I want to try to tie some of the information after kind of go over the project a little bit as to how it might relate to downtown, and how would downtown benefit from a facility of this size and magnitude. So first I'll just talk a little bit about what it is. It's a fulfillment center for Macy's.com. It's 1.3 million square feet. I was just out there this afternoon with Larry Kump, who wanted to have a tour of it, and we drove around the site, and it's already, I mean, they broke ground on it in April, and it's already 75% under roof. They expect to have it fully sealed up and weatherproof before the winter comes in, and it's really come along magnificently. And I'll take the pretty picture down just to let everybody get an idea of where it is in relationship to downtown. This is an aerial image with an architect drawing that has been placed over it. And this yellow line here is Interstate 81. And this yellow line here is Route 9 headed out to Hedgesville. And what's not on this image is the interchange number 16 for Edwin Miller Boulevard, which is right about here. So you can, if you know where exit 16 and Edwin Miller Boulevard is in relationship to here in downtown and the city of Martinsburg, you can see how close this new facility is to downtown. It's not inside the city, but it is pretty close to the city. This is what's known as the Cumbo Yard Industrial Park. It was originally about 400 acres. A lot of that acreage has been eaten up over the years. This big white rooftop here is the former General Motors facility, which is now Shopping Commerce Center. This smaller rooftop here is the new General Motors facility for their parts distribution. Behind them is the Quad Graphics printing facility that you can see from 81 as you're driving on 81. And this is a Federal Express package management facility that is next to the site. And this is the site for the Macy's building. It is a 95-acre industrial site. They have got a 1.3 million square foot building on 95 acres, which, believe it or not, is a pretty tight fit. So it's a building that probably will not be expanded in any way unless they acquire adjacent property to do so. It is the largest building in the Macy's corporate distribution system. They don't have anything any bigger than 1.3 million square feet, and of course it's the newest since it's under construction. The purpose of the facility is specifically and only for the fulfillment of orders placed at Macy's.com and Bloomingdale's.com, which is also a Macy's brand. So from now on, when you go to Macy's.com or Bloomingdale's.com to buy yourself some some dishes or a chair or a scarf, it will ship from Martinsburg, West Virginia. It is still going to take 3 or 4 days to get to you. It's not going to shorten the amount of time that it comes to you, but it will ship from here. This facility, and I'm just going to refresh my memory on some of the stats, but the total number of full-time employees year-round will be 1,200. And then it grows to over 2,000 at Christmas time. And it also grows to over 2,000 in April, May, and June. Does anybody?
Mother's Day weddings.
Weddings. April, May, and June. Weddings. Because they said, I said, well, it's Christmas time. That's Christmas time's when you guys have all your extra employees. They said, no, we have a really huge push in April, May, and June, and it's weddings. Because Macy's is the #1 bridal registry store in the world. Everybody registers at Macy's. So they always have a big push in the springtime for the wedding season. From a fiscal standpoint, it is 1.3 million square feet. It's kind of hard to get your head around. The best way I could describe it is you can put 27 Mountaineer football fields inside the building.
Considering your background, that was a very good analogy.
Yeah, thanks. It's I mean, it's a big building. You can put 27 football fields in it. You could probably land a twin-engine aircraft in it and come to a complete stop without having to worry about overdoing the brakes. It's one of the largest buildings on the East Coast. It's the largest project that was put under construction east of the Mississippi in 2011. There were larger ones in 2010. Caterpillar put up a 3 million square footer on the East Coast in 2010, but this is the largest one for 2011.
Probably the only one for 2011.
Well, it's one of the few.
Yeah.
Yeah. So while Martinsburg and Berkeley County certainly has not escaped the recession, we are blessed to have won this important project, and the impact here is going to be large. Let's see if I can find another interesting. Well, this is just a architect drawing of the size of the building in relationship to the. You can see all the parking. There's 2,000 parking spaces, tons and tons of truck docks, lots of stormwater management to handle the new impervious surface, and they moved over 1 million square feet of earth and rock to create a flat spot big enough to put it. But all of that is great and interesting, but that doesn't necessarily affect Martinsburg and downtown. It's a cool project, and I myself have gone out there every week to watch the progress, and sometimes the progress has been just mind-boggling. And if you hear really loud helicopters next Wednesday, it's because they're bringing the largest crane helicopter in North America here to move all of the HVAC air conditioning units that are laying on the ground, that are each the size of a bus, up onto the roof. And they use a crane helicopter for that, and it'll be there all day next Wednesday lifting those things into place, and that'll be a really interesting thing to watch from far away. But with all the magnitude and all the engineering and how cool it is to see something of that size get built, and the stats on it, how does the project kind of bring home what it will mean for Martinsburg, the city of Martinsburg certainly, and for the Eastern Panhandle? And the stat that I think is the most important, the one I think that will make the biggest difference for the community and for the people, is they estimate that their annual payroll, conservatively, will be over $30 million a year. That's a $30 million new injection of payroll in people's pockets that they will be circulating in the Eastern Panhandle, and will be circulating inside the city limits of Martinsburg. And if anybody knows much about how money gets circulated in the community and how families average what their spending is. I actually have a chart of percentages of spending for the average U.S. family on housing and on energy and on automotive and on food and insurance and all of those things. And if you're in the car business, you're going to be leasing and selling some more cars. If you own an apartment building, you'll be leasing more apartments. If you're in the housing business, you're going to be selling more houses. If you're in the food business, you're going to be selling more food. $30 million every year of brand new payroll distributed amongst over 1,200 to 2,000 people, all milling around this community, is going to raise the economic situation that we have here substantially. It's not just a drop in the bucket. It's going to be a big change, and it's going to make a big difference for us. And it's going to help Martinsburg, because that's the baseline by which all of our other businesses are able to succeed. And so that factoid is the one that I love to talk about the most, the one that I believe is going to have the most impact, certainly, on the city of Martinsburg. And I think that it's going to change our economy for the better starting next year. And I'm very, very pleased about that. I have other, facts and figures about the project, when we started working on it last summer, negotiating with them, and that process. But I don't want to go into things that maybe aren't interested to the group. So I'll stop and I'll let you guys kind of drive the conversation. Go ahead and ask any questions at all that you may have.
Completion date?
They expect to be finished in April of next year. They'll be fully operational, so that they'll be up and running and running smoothly for the fourth quarter of next year. So, yeah.
Is the construction creating jobs for local people?
It is. There are 250 some odd people on site today. I literally talked to the construction manager less than an hour ago. I was touring the site. He expects to have over 400 people on site next week. When they get into building the guts of the building, all the mechanical and electrical and plumbing and all the racking and conveyor systems and all of that stuff, you won't see as much activity certainly around the outside of the building, because that part will be mostly done. It'll all take place inside. It'll be kind of like a beehive. They expect as many as 800 people on the job on any given day when all the mechanical work is underway. And I have had reporters who've asked me about, were local contractors awarded contracts to build this building? Macy's had with them a general contractor as they evaluated sites and locations, a company out of Tennessee named H&M Contracting, which is a big firm that specializes in building big giant boxes. And they had built these projects for Macy's around the country, and they were part of the site evaluation and site location evaluation team. And they were partnered with Macy's. So the general contractor had been selected prior to them even selecting Martinsburg as a location for the facility. The general contractor, because of the project size and magnitude, awards subcontracts to subcontractors for various portions of the job. There was a firm called DeWeese Contracting that got the work for all of the earthwork, to move all of the earth, which was in the neighborhood of 1 million cubic meters of earth and stone that needed to be massaged to create a flat spot for this building to set on. And it required huge bonding on the part of the contractor, and required very specialized, extremely large equipment that a local contractor simply didn't have. But there are a lot of local workers who are working for them and who have brought with them their skills, in some cases have brought with them their equipment. And I, from time to time, have gotten pointed questions about local content because there haven't been local contractors that were awarded big pieces of the job. But the local contractors have hired a lot of local workers. And the best way that I can alleviate, or I guess clarify for folks who have questions about the local content for the construction, is go to the site, tell the security guard that you're there to have a look at the site, and walk around the parking lot, which they've actually finished building the parking lot, and look at the license plates on the hundreds of pickup trucks and cars that are parked there. And what you will find is license plates from West Virginia, license plates from Maryland, and license plates from Virginia. Are there a handful of license plates from other places? Yes, there are some. But the vast majority of the guys that are out there working, building that thing, are from this local area. And that, I think, is the best kind of on-the-ground way to prove it. And I said that to a reporter when I was on the site a few months ago with Shelley Capito, because we were getting some pointed questions about that. And I said, well, let's just go for a walk around the parking lot. And that shut her up pretty quick.
Well, regardless of that, even if they were all from not in this area, they're here and they're earning money and they're spending money.
They are. That's true. The hotels are booked with the folks that have come here from other areas to work.
They're eating,
yes.
They're staying in hotels, they're, meeting their personal needs. So I think it's a big deal, even if nobody was from this area that's working there, because they're just spending money.
Well, one of the technical complications for contracting firms in the area is what's known as bonding. You have to place a construction bond up when you take on a contract to build a multi-million-dollar project, and you have to be able to bond a multi-million-dollar bond, post a really large bond to do that. And smaller contractors that aren't equipped for projects of this magnitude simply don't have the finances for that. So it doesn't take away from the fact that smaller contractors and their employees get work doing the work, but they are just too small to be awarded larger subsections of the construction project, yes.
Steve, first, congratulations. That's a real success, and we appreciate you doing so much for our community. As you look at from your extensive experience in states like Maryland and others that are really in the development business in a quality way, what would you recommend that the downtown do now to capitalize on the growth that will come from this and the growth that will come from other opportunities that you see in the future?
Well, it's a multi-part question, and there's a lot of moving parts, but downtown Martinsburg has some of the same challenges that hundreds of small downtowns all over the country have had. And it is difficult to sometimes overcome them. Some of the commercial base leaves the local downtown area with the advent of malls and new retail and shopping areas, and it's hard to bring that momentum back to a smaller downtown that's designed in a much more traditional fashion. I come from Huntington, West Virginia. And Huntington, West Virginia has struggled mightily for decades with the revitalization of its downtown, and it's still pretty tough. There's a lot of empty buildings there. It looks like Martinsburg on a larger scale, where there's stores and buildings that are empty, and there is development outside of the downtown area on some of the larger thoroughfares and interstates. One of the things that will help most of all, and it's a momentum builder, is being able to identify and recruit some baseline employer who will have folks that are making money in a building that is in the heart of the downtown area. Does that mean converting an existing building into something that would accommodate an office user for customer service operations or finance, or for perhaps even a state or federal government project, or a project for a school or university? You see downtown in Charlestown actually have been blessed to have APU. that has grown their employment base in a lot of the buildings around Charlestown. And they have an employment base. Those folks are getting a paycheck and a payroll, and they're milling about in what is the downtown Charlestown, and that is providing a customer base that is feeding the rest of the small businesses that are in downtown. And being able to identify and recruit something that can create some financial momentum to anchor that is probably the first key, and it's very difficult. And I've talked with Mayor Kairos on a number of occasions about it, and Mark Baldwin and I have had strategy sessions on, well, what are some of the things that we could get to come together, and are there some opportunities, or are there some federal contracts or state contracts for maybe some offices for a particular government entity that we could revamp one of these buildings. But that's really the kind of the core of a momentum builder, is to have more people that are working in the downtown with some money in their pocket that need to get out and utilize some of the services. It's tough because there's a lot of chicken and egg. If a developer who owns a particular building and wants to get it leased up is able to put the kind of money into it to bring it up to a certain level of achievement in order to recruit, that takes a lot of money out of pocket, and a lot of developers or landowners are shy to do that because it's a big risk. It's complicated, and it can be difficult, and Martinsburg is not alone. It's a beautiful historic downtown area that just charms the pants off of you. But in order for it, I think, to become vibrant again, we're going to need to identify and recruit something that's going to create a core momentum from a job standpoint. And there's a lot of different mechanisms by which to try to begin to do that. But
If I could just follow up, I know there's another question, but by the way, Huntington is my hometown, so and many talents, and that's one of them, I'm sure you agree with. But because the city is now at least have one meeting, I hope they'll have more to look at what can be done downtown. Would your office be willing to have a special task force or something that would focus on how your office can reinforce the vision of the downtown people? Is that something that normally could be done?
Well, absolutely. And Mayor Kairos is on our board of directors. Mayor Kairos is on the board of directors for the Berkeley County Development Authority. He's on the executive committee. Mark Baldwin and I meet on a regular basis to talk about projects that are both inside and outside the city. Everything from baseline infrastructure issues like water and sewer, all the way up to trying to figure out creative ways to do something with the Interwoven Mills buildings area, which we think is a great opportunity, but is it's a struggle because of the size and some of the age issues and design issues. But it's not something that is taking place in a vacuum right now. We've never formalized a particular task force, but I think we would if we had a project that we felt like needed that kind of formal task force. I think that we would do that, absolutely. It would make a lot of sense. Yes.
Steve, I was wondering to what extent other factors in the area led to the decision to select Martinsburg for that facility. For example, you mentioned that there was a FedEx facility next to this site.
There is a FedEx facility next to the site.
So I was wondering if that had anything to do with it, because it's going to require a huge shipping capacity, I would imagine.
It does, and this is a FedEx facility right here next door. And I think to a small extent, they seem to indicate that would be a bonus to have it right next door. Macy's corporately, the vast majority of their shipping is through the UPS company. That's their big shipping partner. But they also ship through FedEx. They also ship through U.S. Postal Service. But most of it is through UPS. I think that it was very interesting to them to discover that FedEx was on this site next door. And if I was the plant manager, I would try to figure out a way to come up with some symmetry there and be able to add some value to that relationship. Because while corporately in New York and Cincinnati, Macy's may be focused more on their relationship with UPS, locally, I mean, they probably don't have any facilities in the entire country that literally sit next door to FedEx facility. So,
Were there any population factors that were involved in, like, this area has a certain set of skill or educational levels, that would be beneficial to that particular type of work?
yeah, their evaluation team spent about $250,000 and almost 3 months on a detailed demographics and labor study. And part of that included meeting with the human resource directors for all of the major employers along the I-81 corridor, specifically and most importantly, the folks that are in the logistics and supply chain management business. And also meeting with the regional managers of a lot of the employment firms like Manpower and Experian and those larger personnel management firms. And they have, they spend a lot of time and money on their labor study because that's the biggest chunk of the long-term expense. And the building is nice, but it's not functional without enough people and enough quality people that they know that they can keep, fully staffed when they need to have it staffed. I think that the quality and availability of the labor market here was a linchpin in their decision to place the facility here. Yeah.
Locally, I guess I have two questions. Number one, did anybody do any kind of study on the number of trucks that are going to be leaving that facility and what impact they might have on the traffic at the Route 9 interchange? And number two, I'm just kind of wondering if all of this new movement to sort of tax the internet sales somewhere, usually at the point of actual distribution, as I understand it, might in some way benefit the state, and what our local officials might be doing about that.
Well, those are two great questions. I can give you a pretty definitive answer on the first one, and on the second one, I'll give you my hypothesis based on what my studies have brought. On the traffic study, yes, DOH and Macy's engineers did a full traffic impact study. The traffic impact study revealed a few tweaks that they are going to do to Caperton Boulevard, which is this road here in the park, to the GM access road, and the intersections here on Route 9, which will be widened, and there will be some turn lanes added, and the signalization is going to get tweaked. The total truck, they'll be in the process of it this spring. They'll get it done this spring. DOH has got it on their construction calendar. But interestingly enough, because this is what's called a direct-to-consumer facility, it actually has a lot less trucks than a facility that ships to pallets of goods that go to a store that is then merchandised and sold to the public. This is direct-to-consumer, so it actually has a lot less trucks, and I'll explain why. Because the trucks that pull up here will fill up with 10,000 small packages. And those trucks will go to a UPS sorting facility. And the UPS sorting facility will then send them out to their customer base. So the trucks pulling out of this facility will be UPS, FedEx, and U.S. Postal Service.
Coming in is going to be by train?
No, what's coming in will be products that are on, that it'll be pallets of product, but it's not pallets of product going out.
The trucks are going to come in.
That's correct. But surprisingly, there's less truck movement than there is in a standard distribution facility like the one for, say, Tractor Supply, the one that's up in Hagerstown as you get up past 70, which is supplying goods to all the Tractor Supply stores.
And your question about internet tax. My hypothesis is that companies like Macy's and other firms that have a big internet retail presence do not like the patchwork of state laws that are getting passed around the country to try to compensate for the loss in sales tax revenue. So they're looking to the federal government to put together some sort of legislation that will decide what is the tax going to be on internet sales, handle it at the federal level with an allocation based on what percentage of those transactions come from particular entities. It's going to get addressed, in my opinion, in the coming years, probably sooner than later. It'll probably be a federal solution so that there isn't a patchwork of different laws around the country affecting everyone differently. And it will likely benefit the states some, and probably the federal government some as well. So, yes.
Yes, there was something in the news that said perhaps we had another project coming along, is that correct?
We're working on a couple of projects. The newspaper has reported on a project that we've nicknamed Java, which is a fairly significant project, similar in size and scope to the Macy's project. We feel hopeful. We are in the process of competing for that project. I'm in the process of competing for the attention of these companies on a regular basis. I'm always recruiting. But that one in particular is one that is fairly large, and we've been working on it for a number of months now. It's still coming along. We're hopeful that sometime in the coming weeks we'll know that we've won the project, or we'll have a big letdown. It'll be one or the other.
Steve, as you look at, just following up on that point, what do you see as the future for this region? Will it be basically a distribution center, as you see when you go to Front Royal and further on down on 81 all the way up to the Hagerstown Tractor Supply and that area? Is that what this area is going to be carved out for because of economic factors, or do you see something else changing in the future?
I would say that business is market driven, and business is going to make market driven choices based on what is the best solution for business at that time in the marketplace. The intersection of 81 and 70 and the 81 corridor as a north-south logistics chain is a strong one, and it will remain one. 95 used to be. 95 is overtaxed in terms of its total number of vehicles. It is undependable, particularly in winter months. And so companies who need their trucks to be able to move without incident are shying away from I-95. I-81 is a very viable and popular alternative. It's not too hard to figure that out when you're driving on it. And there's a pretty broad number of commercial trucks that are utilizing it. It may be frustrating as an individual driver to have that many commercial trucks, but it's the nature of the marketplace. We're going to continue to see some more of it because it's market driven. We hope to also see ancillary businesses in manufacturing as well. But it's a sector of the economy that has not grown as rapidly. Everybody knows, you hear complaints about the manufacturing sector being slow or stilted, and that continues to be the case. We see some manufacturing projects. I've seen some manufacturing projects that have looked in the 81 corridor. Haven't managed to win one yet, but they are looking. There's not a lot of them, but they are looking.